Hi folks, Marcus from Your Move Games here, and I've got a little something different for you tonight. I've got a top 5 list, and we all love top 5 lists or top anything lists, don't we? So tonight's subject is going to be my 5 favorite faction abilities synergizing with a single unit from that faction. All right, so basically, let's say if we're talking about Men of Hawksold, the ability Bravery, I like the way that it synergizes with the militia because it makes the militia unit viable at the 111 points, 115 points. That's not on the list, but that's just an example. So getting right to it, we are going to start with monsters and mercenaries, and this fine unit right here, Ogres. All right, the Ogres are a wonderful little beat stick unit. They're not little, they're large actually. Close to 300 points, but they are a core unit, so they're pretty nice. The downfall of these guys is the average pedestrian courage of 12, and the fact that it takes 2 command actions to change the standing order or to rally them. So if they run off, it's going to cost you a bit to bring them back into the fight. Well, enter Spoils. That's right. Spoils is a really nice ability that makes the Monsters and Mercs faction viable anyway. You kind of need to use it, and thank goodness for the Paymaster or Quartermaster ability as well. But what's nice about Spoils is not only does it give this unit a de facto +2 courage if you have it activated, the hidden strength of this is that let's say that these ogres run and they fail the route check by a big number. You roll a 16 or whatever, and whether or not you erase the spoils, it's not going to save them anyway. Let them run, and then on any movement command phase, it doesn't have to be yours, it could be your opponent's, you can erase the spoils box and it will auto rally them for free. Normally this costs 2, so this is a wonderful synergistic ability for the ogre unit right here. So number 5, ogres with spoils, pay the man. All right, number 2, we're going to go into historical factions here. We're going to go with the Persian Cavalry, which is a pretty nice unit, and the King's Favor ability. Now, King's Favor is an interesting ability because it's the only faction ability that you purchase up front at the very beginning of the game, and then you can no longer apply it mid-game. King's Favor is also very limited in that I really only can think of 3 units that I would ever use it on in the Persian army. However, this unit, the Persian Cavalry, absolutely shines with it. Is it worth burning a command action per turn for the life of the game to put King's Favor on these guys? Well, if you can keep them out of harm's way before they become engaged, that's a resounding yes. The King's Favor basically is a permanent strike. So for that range attack, that javelin attack becomes 3 dice at a 7/5. It's pretty neat. But you also get a +1 on the offensive power for engaged attacks. So if the King's Favor is marked on this unit, you're going to engage 3 dice at a 7/5 with the javelin toss, and then you're getting 8 dice at a 7/6 with an impact hit for the engaged attack. That's going to hit about as hard as a unit of knights for 150 points less. Oh, and as an added little sweetener, you can erase the King's Favor to rally the unit. Yes, I know, once you've erased it, oh, there it is. Once you erase it, it's gone, but still, that is a really, really nice ability, and in my mind, I think it was made especially for these guys. Moving on to number 3, we're coming to one of my favorite factions ever, and it's a very simple faction ability. It's the Dwarves. That's right. And the Rune of Uruz. Now we're really releasing the Dwarves, and you're going to be seeing more Kickstarter action about that coming up in the near future. But the Rune of Uruz is staying. We may change the name, we may not, but the ability is going to remain. Basically, spend the command action, check the box, and you get +1 attack dice forever and ever, amen, until your unit either dies or it routs. Well, with the defensive stat of 1/4 and that hitbox configuration, it takes a long time for these guys to run off or to kill them. Not to mention that 14 courage. So, what makes this ability so special on this unit? It's a slow burn ability. That means it's not going to do anything. It's usually not going to do anything spectacular for you right up front. But over time, say even in 3 attacks, you're basically getting 3 extra dice at the 6/6. And that's going to do a point of damage somewhere. So for a faction that is built around the entire concept of grinding it out, the Rune of Uruz is a viable ability. And on these guys with their 6/6 offensive stats, the Rune of Uruz is going to get you some damage somewhere. It is, and it's probably going to be more than 1 point during the life of the game. So Rune of Uruz on Longbeards, It's almost a no-brainer for me. Speaking of no-brainers, here comes my number 2. The Umenzi, another one of my favorite factions, and that wonderful ability, Faith Armor, which some players have even gone so far as to say is actually broken. The ability is so good. You spend a command action, you mark the box, and the next damage that occurs to that unit goes to the Faith Armor instead. So you're basically effectively giving your units extra hitboxes. So that's wonderful for a bunch of 2-1 units, which is the meat and potatoes of the Umenzi faction. But on these guys, the Chosen, it becomes something else. Because the Chosen have that 14 courage, they have 5 green hitboxes, and they're also a meat grinder unit with the 6/6 offensive stat. So for single command action, you're effectively giving a unit with a 3/2 defense 6 green hitboxes if you do it early on in the game. And anybody that's played against high elves, ask them how much of a pain in the ass it is doing damage to a bunch of 3/2 offensive line units. Well, try knocking 6 green boxes off one of these guys while staying alive. This is an awesome combination. If it wasn't for my number 1, I would say hands down, this is the best. Faith Armor, Umenzi Chosen. Dig it. And finally, we're coming down to the final number 1. And this is a thing I think that across the board, the people I hear at Your Move Games all agree on. It's just a fantastic synergy, I'm not even going to say it, synergy between a faction ability and a unit. Corey believes this is probably the best. My good friend and confidant Brooke Villa also believes this is easily one of the best on the short list of best ever faction abilities going along with the unit. It is Elves of Ravenwood with that wonderful Spirit Guidance ability on the archers. Spirit Guidance can be kind of tricky because it's not a fire and forget kind of ability. You have to know when to play it, and you basically just erase it and change any die roll to a 2. But on the archer unit, this is really sweet because they have that 6 offensive skill, which is nice. And as long as you're not firing at a unit that has a defensive toughness of 4, don't do that, please, unless it's absolutely necessary. You can virtually guarantee yourself a point of damage every attack where you're using the Spirit Guidance against most opponents, barring some fancy card play, and then at least you have the benefit of getting the cards out of their hands, But still, this is an outstanding combination. Just mark the box. And you're pretty much guaranteed a point of damage. And since you guys have the 6/5 offensive stat, you can count on maybe doing more than a point of damage per turn. And next to the little hidden tip, if you do well on your attack turn, and you have the box marked, save it for your opponent's turn when you fire again, when you've probably expended some of your resources and you're low on command cards, but you can still get that guaranteed point. So that's it. My number 1, Ravenwood Archers with Spirit Guidance. Number 2, Chosen from the Umenzi with Faith Armor. Number 3, Runavarus, Longbeards. Number 4, Persian Cavalry with King's Favor. And number 5, Spoils, Pay the Man, Monsters and Mercenaries for the Ogres. All right, guys, you have a great night. Until then, I'll see you.